Welcome to the Legal Navigator podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca from Law Training Centre. Today, we're joined by an amazing guest speaker, Vicki Redman. She has over 19 years of experience in residential property with expertise in various conveyancing issues and property types. Vicki's actually worked with some of the country's largest house developers, as well with high network individuals and investors. And she's also worked with estate agents and mortgage companies, as well as brokers. Currently, Vicki is the conveyancing trainer and knowledge team manager at Swiitch by Shoosmiths. Today, Vicki will share her journey and provide insights for those interested in a career in conveyancing. So, Vicki, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. It would be wonderful if you could just share a bit about your background in the legal field and just basically how it all started.
Yeah, of course. Happy to. So, as we said, my name's Vicki Redman. I've worked in conveyancing since 1999, so it's actually 24 years now in the legal field. So, quite a long time. I've worked for a range of different law firms, obviously up to where I am now, and I've worked for some of the biggest conveyancing firms in the country. And over that period of time, I've worked with a wide range of different clients and agents and had real wide ranging experience in residential property. So now I'm at Swiitch as head of training, and my role now is really to help the trainee conveyancers, the younger up and coming staff, to learn more about the job, to share my experiences with them, and to help them become well rounded conveyancers too.
Great. So, what specifically inspired you to pursue a career in conveyancing?
I'm not sure I ever thought I would work in conveyancing, if I'm honest. I don't think it was something I thought about, definitely not from school. It wasn't something widely advertised, really. But I started working in a law firm because I thought law was interesting and something a bit different. I found a job as my first job was sort of a legal receptionist and administrator, like a legal secretary. And I just found it really interesting. And then from there, the person that I worked for, he started doing a bit of conveyancing work, and it just sort of took off from there. It wasn't something I ever thought, yes, this is what I want to do. But now I'm really happy that that is how my path has worked out and where I am now.
It's really good. So you touched on that it wasn't widely advertised in your school, which I would say is still the case because when I was in university, conveyancing wasn't a key area that was widely publicized, to be honest. So, in terms of what you actually studied in school, could you talk me through your academic background? Like, did you study an LLB, for example, or could you delve in a bit more on that?
Yeah, of course. So personally, I didn't go to university. Nobody in my family's ever been to university. I did do A levels at school, and at that time, I studied very science based subjects. I was convinced that I was going to go off and do some kind of engineering. I studied maths and physics, chemistry, technology, woodwork, all of the boy subjects at that time. I was in my class. But then after I'd done some of those, I wanted to find something else to study. And that's when law came up. And I thought, well, this will be interesting and so different to what I'd been doing before. And then because I was studying part time doing law, I then started looking for a job in that industry where I could put that into practice. Not necessarily at that point in time intending that to be a career. Obviously, that is what happened. But yeah, then obviously, as you work in these jobs, you can then study. A lot of firms now offer online and distance learning for people with and without a law degree to work their way up and obviously get to where they are. So my route wasn't traditional by any means.
Yeah, it's good that you've touched on it because you do have quite a few people who are coming from diverse backgrounds, whether that's completely outside of the legal sector. So I'm curious to know, were there any particular challenges you faced transitioning into the legal field? Like, were there any sort of barriers?
I think there are lots of barriers for people from different backgrounds in different areas. For me, I was very lucky that the job came up at the right time. And like I said, it was a very basic admin job with reception and post duties. It wasn't necessarily a legal job to start with. And then as I worked hard and I showed that I was learning and interested to learn more, then I got sort of promoted within that role up to where I came. So I think there are opportunities there, but you have to be willing to find those opportunities. Maybe take a job that isn't what you first thought you wanted. If I wanted a legal secretary role or a conveyancing role, I wouldn't have had the experience for that. But by working my way up and working hard and proving myself, and I think that's probably still the case today for a lot of legal areas, there are jobs out there. There are introductory admin jobs out there. There are apprenticeships now out there as well, which I think
Yeah.
it's that was never really offered, when I started. I think that's really great. But there definitely are opportunities out there. There is a lot of competition for legal jobs, but actually in conveyancing, there is a bit of a skills shortage at the moment. There are a lot of conveyancers who have left the profession. So there is a bit of a skills gap. And therefore, possibly for people looking to take steps into law and into conveyancing, there are some really good opportunities out there for them at the moment.
It's really good. Touching on the point of skills, what particular skills would you say one needs in order to thrive in conveyancing, in order to get their foot into the door of conveyancing?
I think for conveyancing, one of the most important things that we need and that we see our staff needing is really confidence and customer service, good communication skills. The law is obviously really important, but you can learn the law, you can be taught the law and the legal principles and conveyancing process, but you need to be able to speak to people. You need to be able to have a really good rapport with your clients. You need to have empathy, understand their situation, be able to deal with their issues, be able to understand their situation. And a good conveyancer is really good at customer service and can make their client feel valued and deliver an excellent service. And I think that's something that possibly is harder to teach than the law side.
So it is often said that the role of a conveyancer can be quite challenging and demanding, given like the fast-paced nature or the unpredictable twists and turns, whether that's clients backing out of deals last minute, or let's just say discovering like a defect in a property title, and such issues can just like delay the whole conveyancing process and also create like additional legal work, which could add on to the problem. But can you share any specific challenges you faced within the role of conveyancing and how did you overcome them? Additionally, like what sort of advice you'll give others in the field to successfully navigate these challenges?
Yeah, good question. There are lots of things, like you've just mentioned, all those examples. Absolutely, we come across those every day. And I think experience is the main thing. Having people around you in a team that are more experienced, that you can learn from, that you can listen to, that you can speak to, that you can ring if you need to, if you're working from home, or shout across the desk. And just having other people around you that are more experienced to learn from, that really is important, because I do find that when you've got a firm with a range of people, with a range of specialisms and a range of experience, somebody there knows the answer. Somebody's seen that question before, somebody's come across that problem before, and it's just sharing that knowledge and that experience within the team. And sharing knowledge is really important. Learning from your mistakes is one thing, but learning from other people's mistakes and your team's mistakes, or learning from things that maybe other firms have done or legal cases that you've read about, and then thinking, is this issue and how can we avoid it happening to us? What would we do if that happened to us? How can we avoid that? So knowledge sharing is massive. But yeah, there are a lot of things that people will find are difficult about conveyancing. The process in general possibly needs a bit of reform. I think that the process is still quite lengthy and consumers generally would like the process to be quicker. There's also, I think, a lot of ways in which conveyancers can become more modern. We can definitely embrace a lot more technology. Things like AI have started to come into the sector. There's a lot of tech out there now that I think really is important to embrace. I don't think conveyancers will ever be replaced by AI or tech, but I do think that conveyancers will know how to use the AI and the tech. And the maybe more old-fashioned conveyancers that don't embrace that will be the ones that clients aren't as interested in using in the future. Consumers, they want quick, easy, modern. They want access on their smartphone. They want the information, quickly and easily. We're a social media sort of generation now where everything's at our fingertips. And I think conveyancing and lots of areas of law have still got a little bit of a way to go to match customers' expectations.
That's really good, really good. But of course, I touched on the challenges, but there are definitely going to be some rewarding aspects. So that's whether that's helping, the first time buyer, reach a significant milestone, getting on the property ladder, whether it's helping a newlywed couple, for example, let's just say they've got their first home as a couple and they can now start building their families. From your perspective, are there any other sort of rewarding aspects or something personally that you've experienced that's just really positive about working in conveyancing?
Absolutely, there are loads of positives, and I wouldn't have stayed in this job for so long if it wasn't really rewarding and enjoyable. It really is so nice. And like you said, with first-time buyers or any customer, making that phone call to say, you know what, you can now get your keys and move into your dream home, that is super rewarding. But also, I think that the sort of the teamwork, pulling together, getting through a busy Friday and getting everybody moved in, everybody happy, getting to the end of a month, and it's all done, that has got its own rewards. And for me, in my role where I am now, because I work on training, development, and knowledge sharing is a big part of that. For me, seeing my junior staff come on, how they develop, how they learn, seeing them build their confidence and improve in the way they work, seeing them learn new things, get qualified, get promoted, that is what makes the job for me. Seeing other people thrive in it is really rewarding.
Yeah, it's really good. So I just want to touch on the rebrand to Switch. So Shoosmiths has introduced a new brand, Switch, which is the new name for the conveyancing services. I was wondering if you can just tell us a bit more about the reasons behind the recent rebrand.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shoosmiths obviously are very well known, well respected. It's a great brand, and we don't want to completely move away from our history. We're not renaming the whole firm. That is a really important part of our heritage. But in the modern world, conveyancing is not maybe seen by consumers in line with that old reputation that we've built. Consumers
Mm,
these days maybe have never heard of Shoosmiths. They want something modern, they want something that they can feel that reflects what we do, that works for them. And it felt like it was the right time. Shoosmiths introduced now a new house of brands approach, of which Switch is one of the brands. And although we are still part of Shoosmiths and we've got the support of the whole firm, by taking it separate, we can modernize ourselves a little bit more. We can embrace more tech. We can concentrate on what we need to deliver for consumers. We've got our own website now where we can have more things directed at consumers as well, and for the people that are actually going to be buying and selling their homes, to make it really consumer focused, to make it modern,
mm.
friendly, jargon free, and just really to, I suppose, make it clear what we're now about, what we're going to concentrate on. So this is definitely for Switch and for the Switch brand. This is absolutely our focus: client excellence, delivering an excellent service to people, helping them make their dreams come true, literally. That is a huge focus for us. And so by separating out a little bit, we're just making that clear that that is our focus, and that's our strategy to improve in that area and modernise.
That's really great. In terms of like separating out, are there any particular challenges? Obviously, getting the name to be more visible in comparison to Shoosmiths. Is there any challenges in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. There are, and there have been. When we launched, we did try and obviously share that as widely as possible. Obviously, all of
Mm,
our customers were informed, all of our estate agents and the companies we work with. But there's definitely still a lot of people that maybe haven't heard of it yet, especially within the industry, other law firms and things like that. Having Switch with two eyes. Also, some people have thought it maybe was a bit of a scam at first. So we've had to do a lot of work to make sure that, people know that this is genuine. And that has all settled down a lot now. But when it was first launched, yeah, we did have challenges that maybe we didn't anticipate. But behind the scenes, we are still Shoosmiths. We're still regulated in the same way. We've still got the same,
mm.
team, the same excellent advice that we've been given for years. And so our reputation that we were known for is still the same. And once people realised that and realised it was just a name and a brand, and actually the excitement of what that could mean for the future, then generally it's been embraced really well.
I quite like the name Switch with the two eyes. I think it actually stands out as quite appealing. Do you know what inspired the name choice?
We wanted something modern. We really
Mm,
wanted something that was just one word. We wanted something that maybe didn't contain the words conveyancing or convey the word law or lawyers. We
mm,
wanted to make it clear for a consumer sort of what we were doing and what we were about in a really simple, modern way. A lot of the new brands and the new tech startups and all of the modern companies we've got now, a lot of the words and the names that they use and the brands aren't necessarily the brands that you would have seen or recognized a few years in the past. There are some great examples of brands now that the words
mm.
are literally just made up, but they've created this brilliant brand. and it's really worked well for them. So we wanted to stand out by being different, by having one word, nice, simple, modern, easy to remember for people. And that was sort of the idea behind it, really. You know, all these things now, Starling Bank, Starling is a bird, it's nothing to do with banking. Monzo, all of these other types of companies. Chase is now a bank. Maybe Chase wouldn't be a great word for a conveyancing firm, great name for that. But you know, these words that they've created, all of these big firms now, or these big brands, have just got a single word, modern, link to them, and that's really what we wanted to have as well.
It's really interesting. I like it. I really do. So, in terms of how your clients reacted to the change.
The reaction's generally been really, really positive. Yeah. We've had great feedback from our clients. We've had great feedback from the agents we work with, other people that we work with, and firms. The reaction's been really positive. I think at first other law firms were a bit like, oh, why have they done this? What's going on? You know, things like that. People were curious about what we've done and why we've done it. But from a client perspective, yeah, it's all been positive. They've been informed every step of the way. So there's been no negativity in that sense, really. Yeah.
That's great. So, for other firms considering to take a similar approach like Shoosmiths have with rebranding, are there any learning points that you would like to share with them?
I think it's just doing your research, really. I think making sure we've had a great team of people. The project's been ongoing for a long time. This isn't something that we just thought about and launched straight away. Also, we've noticed is there's a lot of things linked to the name that you don't even realize are linked to the name. So doing a really thorough deep dive of everything that uses that name or that word or that brand, and making sure it's all up to date at the right time. So you haven't got some maybe website somewhere or some letter somewhere or some guide with old branding, old colouring, old names on, because that's inconsistent and obviously it doesn't look great for the consumer and it can be confusing for people. So
Mhm.
making sure that it's all launched all at once, modern, consistent, that's really important. Just doing lots and lots of research. It's not a 2-minute change. That's definitely what I would recommend.
Great. So, you obviously oversee the conveyancing within your department. And I was just wondering why you decided to sponsor learners to do the CLC Conveyancing Law and Practice Diploma, as opposed to them going through the traditional pathway of going to university, taking a conveyancing elective, and qualifying through like the LPC, for example.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we do have people actually that do both routes. Sometimes people will come to us, maybe already having had a law degree, maybe with the LPC or studying the LPC. Obviously, now we've got the SQE, so things have changed quite a lot. But we do find is that people maybe didn't realise there are other options. I think that, like we touched on earlier, conveyancing is
Mm,
always something that's well advertised, and people don't maybe know when they're at college or uni or at school about the options to them. And when they come and work for us in a junior role, they find out about all these options. And what we find with a trainee solicitor is obviously they probably have time off to work part time to study their LPC. Then, if they're lucky enough to get a training contract, which is very difficult still to get, they're going to go off and do all of their different seats to learn all of these different areas of law. But when you have somebody that you want to keep within conveyancing, they can do those studies, you can support them and fund those studies whilst they do the job. So
mm,
actually, by the time they become qualified, they've not only got the qualifications, but they've got the experience under their belt. They've not just done it for a few months on a training contract, they've done it for a few years by this point, and therefore they are already going to be much more experienced than a trainee or a newly qualified solicitor, for example, that's maybe just done a few months as a seat in conveyancing and decided that's where they want to go. So it really does help people get more experience, and also learning while you're working. There's obviously
mm.
a financial element to that as well, you know, to get an LPC if your firm are not funding that for you and you're self-funding, to try and find a scholarship or something similar for that is difficult for people. But for the CLC, the options generally are a lot cheaper than the alternatives for a start, which makes a big difference. But also the firm can support them through that. We know that they are definitely where they want to be. You wouldn't sign up for a conveyancing course if you wanted to be a criminal lawyer. So we know that conveyancing is of interest to them. We already know they're passionate about it and that's what they want to learn about. they're already in the job working for us. So we know that they're a good candidate. We know that they're reliable. We know they've got good skills and experiences on the job. So we're just helping them learn more to become more experienced and then move on to becoming a licensed conveyancer. And for us, I think the CLC plays a big part in that. It's very general about all of the areas of law that combine into making a good conveyancer, but the practical experience is very relevant to the day job. And that is really helpful. And our trainees who are studying the level 4 and the level 6 diplomas, they have all said that the examples and the workload and the training that they give, they can really apply that day by day to what they're doing on the job. It's not just something in a book somewhere that doesn't really mean anything. It's actual real life examples and real life work of what they're doing. And that for us is really important.
It's really good. So why did you choose to partner with Law Training Centre for your team's legal education with conveyancing?
What we really like about this is the ability to do everything online. Firstly, the distance learning element, so people don't have to take time off work if they don't want to. They can do it on whatever time of day they like, I suppose, at their own pace whilst they're working. So for people that are working full time, more traditional sort of 9 till 5:30 hours, they can study outside of those hours. But for people that are maybe part-time, people that have got families, people that work different hours, it still works for them. It's not rigid to say you have to go to this college or this place once a week or once a month on a certain day. And also because it's all online, people can do it as fast or as slow as they want at the speed that works for them. They can watch back lectures and videos time and time again if they need to. And they've still got a lot of support. Obviously, we as a firm will support them through it. We've got people at different stages of the qualifications. We've got a lot of staff who are qualified and experienced to help them as well. But the tutor support has been really good as well. So they've always got contact with online tutors, people available that they can talk to, just help them see how they're getting on and support them. So it's really like doing it at college or at uni, but much more flexible. We do have some people who are studying at the moment the level 6 qualification who have families, who work from home a lot, who maybe only work in the office once or twice a week. Maybe they only do 2 or 3 days a week worth of hours. So we've got a lot of people where maybe the traditional routes wouldn't suit them, but having this on-demand, completely online, flexible learning means that those people who maybe in the past wouldn't have been able to study are now able to achieve those qualifications. And that's really important to us and to them.
So, in terms of how important it is for educational investment when it comes to talent retention, have you seen an impact since, sponsoring employees from your firm to study courses? Has this helped with talent retention and people wanting to stay on and develop further within Swiitch Shoosmiths?
Yeah, absolutely. We've only really been sponsoring people through the CLC for the last couple of years. So it's not something that we've been doing for a really long time. We had wanted to do it before, but you've got to get the timing right. And after COVID, it's difficult. So once that's kind of not necessarily over, but once we've moved past that, I think now is a good time to look at investing in our people. And there has been a real skills crisis in the conveyancing industry. During COVID, a lot of conveyancers left the industry. It is really hard to recruit. And therefore, training the good people that you've already got from within is even more important than it's ever been before. And showing that you trust them, that you want to invest in them, obviously is more likely to lead to good staff retention as well. They feel supported, they feel everything else. Yeah. So therefore, they will be more likely to stay with the firm that has shown that investment in them, that has supported them, that has shown that they are willing to put their money where their mouth is. Literally, we're paying for them to do this. We really appreciate these people and understand how important it is, not only to us as a firm, but also to them, that qualification means something to them, that sense of achievement, they've actually got something. And that definitely helps with staff retention.
You touched on briefly about a couple of challenges when it comes to upskilling your workforce, like cost or budget management. Is there any other challenges that you've encountered?
I think there are a lot of challenges, and perhaps until you start down this route, you maybe don't realise what the challenges will be. And we're really lucky that we've worked through those now. Cost can be a big factor. There are now, of course, more options for the apprenticeship route, which is great because big businesses like Swiitch were already having to pay the apprenticeship levy for the government. So therefore, we can use that funding to get apprentices in, and we can get apprentices even at lower levels as well, and then train them up so they might start with an apprenticeship and then maybe move on to the CLC later on after they've completed their apprenticeship. So we're giving them a full career path in front of them. They can see from 16 leaving school, they can see their future and what that path looks like, and that the firm is going to support them through that. Attracting people in the first place is definitely a challenge. Swiitch, we have offices all over the country, but for conveyancing, we have our main office, and most conveyancing staff work out of our Northampton office. And then we have a team in the Solent office, which is in the south coast near to Southampton. We also have a conveyancing team based in Manchester and also in Milton Keynes. So we obviously need talent in and around that area and those offices. And there's obviously high competition for good talent and for good people. So by being able to offer not just a job, but being able to maybe offer a career and a path to a qualification, that definitely helps. But yeah, there is a skills crisis in the industry at the moment. There are a lot of people that have left the industry, and all of the firms out there are trying to offer something different to attract good people. So we have to set ourselves out as being better than that. You know, we have to really make ourselves out to be the place that people want to come and work and want to start a career with. So yeah, there are still a lot of challenges around that. But luckily with cost, it is a lot cheaper to do the CLC route than maybe the full solicitor route or Silex. That means for us that we can sponsor more people. You know, if we could afford to maybe train a few solicitors, we can afford to train a lot more people to be conveyancers. As far as the land registry is concerned, a conveyancer has all the same rights and abilities to sign documents and papers as a solicitor. And obviously, as a licensed conveyancer, people have all of the support from the CLC and the industry behind them. So that's, yeah, definitely a big factor.
It's good that you touched on just how competitive it is right there when it comes to like attracting those talent or retaining them for that matter. So how do you feel Swiitch stands out when it comes to talent development?
I obviously, as conveyancing trainer and head of training and knowledge, feel really passionate about this. This is what
Mm,
I really want us to stand out, and I hope that we already do. And there's definitely, this is not a place where we're going to stop. This is an ongoing thing. We plan to make
mm,
more changes and embrace this even more in the future. We do have a full trainee induction program. We really do try and support people from day one, whatever role they're in, whether they're joining us as a qualified solicitor without experience, somebody with experience, somebody with or without a law degree, somebody as an apprentice straight from school. It doesn't really matter where they're joining us or which location they're in. We have a very joined up approach. So for me, a lot of my training sessions are run online via Teams, so people from
mm,
all of the locations can dial in.
really good.
Obviously, I do travel to the other offices to meet people. Certain training is always best delivered face to face. We still do a lot of that. Um, Having the training sessions recorded so people can watch them back, having slides and notes and follow up. We've also got our own knowledge hub online on our intranet where we store help sheets and guides, manuals and walkthroughs, scenarios, short videos, all sorts of on-demand information. So if somebody doesn't know the answer to a question and there isn't anybody there to help them for whatever reason, they've got a whole library behind them of information and knowledge that they can refer back to. And that's something that's ever evolving. We're always looking at how people learn. Some people are very hands-on, need to do something to learn. Some people like to listen to something like a podcast. Some people like to watch a video. Some people like a combination of both. And depending on how they learn and the way that their brain works and how they absorb the information, we need to constantly be adapting for that.
Mm,
So this is an ongoing thing
yeah.
that I personally put a lot of effort into, is making sure that we always have the support for the people, that they're trained on everything, whether they join us with lots of knowledge or whether they learn literally all the basics from us, that they will get all the support that they need. We've also introduced, for a few years now, we have what we call a training passport. So we have like a record of their training and learning. So these are the things that we expect you to learn. These are the things that we're going to teach you. This is how you show us and evidence that you're achieving those competencies that we've set out for you. And we review that with regular one-to-ones with the managers, with more senior management as well, more regular meetings, training. It's a combination of everything together that hopefully helps people, helps them learn, helps them develop. And then the qualification or the external courses, like with Law Training Centre, like with the CLC, they're a cherry on the top, but actually we're not just relying on that. We're producing our own content and training as well to support people.
That's brilliant, really brilliant. So, reflecting on your own journey, what is something you wish you have known before starting your career in conveyancing, and you believe it will be essential knowledge for aspiring legal professionals in this field?
That's a really good question. I think for me, I wish I'd probably looked at routes to qualification a bit sooner than I did. There are huge opportunities out there for conveyancers that are qualified and unqualified with the experience. But even if you work your way up like I did and then learnt on the job and then did training outside of the day job, I do think it is important that you do try and, if you can, study with something like the CLC courses, because you don't always realise what you don't know until somebody points that out to you. And by studying the different modules and the different types of things like landlord and tenant law, the English legal system, even things like accounts, it just helps you become more well-rounded in your knowledge. So when you're dealing with customers' questions, you've got much more of a rounded knowledge to be able to answer those from, rather than maybe a more single-minded part of conveyancing. But I would also really, maybe not advice to myself, but advice to others, just tell them to embrace everything. Just learn as much as you can, be curious, just dig into everything. Always ask why, and so what? Why am I doing this? What's the reason behind this? I found recently we've been doing a lot of work around building safety and fire safety, following Grenfell and with changes to building safety and the way that that's affected conveyancing. And I think it's really important that instead of being scared of legal changes, that people embrace that they sign up to training events and webinars, that they read things and articles and they look around for the information. Every day is a school day, and I would say that probably in my job, but I think it's really important that people realise that conveyancing is a never-ending journey. There's always something new to learn, and if you like that, like I do, then it's a really good career, because it is always something different. It's never repetitive. Every day is different. But I do think you have to be prepared for that coming in. So I definitely advise people to be curious, to get involved, to ask so what and to ask why, and learn the background behind what they're doing as much as they can.
Amazing. I'm glad you touched on the legal changes and how there's always something new that's developing. So, from your opinion, what changes do you anticipate in the field of conveyancing in the coming years?
Again, that's a really good question. And I think there's going to be a lot of changes probably that we haven't seen coming, especially in line with legal tech and AI, which I know I touched on earlier. I think at the moment we probably don't really know exactly how the tech and how AI could influence our sector. So I think that's going to be a huge area for change. And I think that we as an industry have always been maybe a little bit behind with the tech. But I think that once we can get on top of that, then things will change quite a lot. There are going to be a lot of legal changes, and people will need to keep up with those legal changes, and that will change the industry and has changed the industry already. I think that there will be a lot of changes depending what the government does with some of the things that are going on to improve the conveyancing process. So there's some work at the moment to consider whether we have more upfront information. So the seller has maybe a logbook where they keep records, and those property logbooks may be stored centrally. So when the property is sold, that the buyer can access that information upfront before they put an offer in or before they even start the conveyancing process. And the more upfront information you've got, maybe speed up the transaction time, but also having lawyers work on the same tech and the same platform. That's going to be really interesting, because at the moment there's a lot of different companies out there offering lots of different services, but you're only ever as fast as the slowest person in the chain. If you can do your job in 5 minutes, that's great. But if the rest of the chain are going to take 12 weeks, then your client can't get moved in either. So I think the whole industry needs a bit of a shake up, and government and the Law Commission and all of those things, we're definitely going to see some improvements there. And we're not too sure yet what that will look like. So we will see. But I definitely see AI and tech playing a really big part in that.
Interesting. So, lastly, then, what is next for you? Do you have any upcoming projects or goals or plans in your career that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, another good question. I'm not sure really. For me at the moment, so I've just got married a few months ago. So
Oh,
um,
congrats.
I'm probably still in a little bit of a bubble from that at the moment. Just really concentrating on the lead up to the dreaded C word, Christmas, at the moment, which is always a busy time in conveyancing.
I know.
Everybody wants to be in their new home for Christmas, so it's a really busy time of year. It's been quite challenging this year for us as well, with changes to mortgages and interest rates and the cost of living. So there have been less people that can maybe afford to buy and sell. That's had a real impact. So I think for us this side of Christmas, it's really to get those people moved, to see where the market goes, to spend time, maybe if it is quiet, whilst maybe we don't have the work coming in that maybe we have previously, like for example during the stamp duty holiday when it was really busy, but we spend that time investing in our people more, training people more, getting people to concentrate on things like their qualifications and their studies, and just really trying to see where then the new year will take us. So I think in January, the market normally is quiet. Exactly what will happen for the future, whether house prices will go down, which a lot of experts think they might, really important. So I think for us, it's just watching the industry in general, keeping on top of all the legislation on fire safety and building safety. What's been in the press recently about the aerated concrete and whether or not we might start to see that affect our sector, as it's been used in council flats and things like that. So there's a lot going on. So I think it's probably really not one project at the moment. It's just keeping an eye on all the projects, seeing where the market goes, and making sure we focus on the right things at the right time.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Vicky, for
You're welcome.
today. I really enjoyed that. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Legal Navigator podcast. We hope you found today's episode informative and engaging. If you have any questions or need more information, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can send us an email at info@ltckent.co.uk or visit our website at ltckent.co.uk. Until next time, stay tuned for more episodes.